In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Hafa day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of In Full Zoom. I'm Nestor Licanto, and I'm pleased to welcome our guest this week, Gwen Yamamoto Lau, who is the program administrator of the Hawaii Restaurant Card, and we'll, of course, tell you a little bit more about that throughout the show. And also Sarah Nguyen, who is the owner of Pizza Press, and she's the director of the Hawaii Restaurant Association. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. We're happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, Gwen, let me start with you. Tell us a little bit more about the Hawaii Restaurant Card, and I understand that you're just rolling this program out now.
Yes, thank you for asking. So this is a $75 million economic stimulus program put on by the state of Hawaii, and it is the primary purpose of this program is to inject 75 million into our very struggling restaurant industry and the entire food supply chain. And when the state was looking at how we might deploy the funds, it could have been done in a number of ways. We could have given direct grants to restaurants and done it that way. However, we wanted to impact and help as many people as possible. So we decided to deploy the funds through our displaced workers. And the way we did that is by mining the database of our unemployment system and downloading the CARES eligible individuals and issuing them cards that way. And this is the way we were able to send out over 116,000 cards last week for this program, which they just started receiving.
Wow, that's great. Before we dig a little bit deeper into that, let me bring in Sarah here. And Sarah, you of course are a restaurateur. You own a restaurant, but you're also the director of the Hawaii Restaurant Association. Could you give us an idea of how badly the pandemic has impacted the restaurant industry in Hawaii?
It's been detrimental, and just as a business owner here, and the first shutdown, it was scary. The second shutdown, it was brutal. And as far as with support with the card, it couldn't have come at a time. And so it's been helpful for us. We needed it. We need to have our employees back at work. And so we thank you so much for to be able to get that. So, yeah.
Yeah, percentage wise, how far down do you say the business went at one point?
So as far as with the initial shutdown for our restaurant and specifically, it was we took a 70% hit in the first week. I know some restaurants did worse, some did better, and it took a little bit to get to maybe 80%. But that's the first shutdown. The second shutdown, it was back again, same thing, but we got back to maybe half, and so it was pretty scary. And as far as with the support, and it couldn't have come at a better time. It was pretty scary times, and thank goodness it takes a village to as far as with the support from our customers our loyal customers that were coming in, from our staff that were flexible as far as with, okay, we have to cut the hours, and they're just really resilient. So thankfully, we have a little bit of breathing room now.
Yeah. Likewise with the Guam restaurant industry, you might imagine that this similar thing is happening. I think the fast food restaurant, the drive-through operations have been doing well, but it's the sit-down restaurants that have been hurt the most. I mean, the governor has been allowing takeout, but not dine-in. I'm not sure what the case is for Hawaii, but right now it's restricted to takeout. And so as you can imagine, the restaurant industry has been hurting, as it has been, nationwide. I mean, a lot of folks are suffering. And in fact, a lot have, been saying that they may be forced to shut down, if not temporarily, permanently. Is that similar to the case in Hawaii?
Yeah, it's similar, and you can do, similar here. The fast foods and the lines with the big chains, the Taco Bells, the McDonald's, you see the lines there. But it's the small restaurants, mom and pops that need the support, and more important than ever, to support local. And as far as with takeout, you know, I am a go-getter and no stone left unturned, but takeout only was tough. It was really tough. And that got us to maybe half, but half isn't cutting it with still having to pay for our rent and everything. And so us on the restaurant side, you know, I feel like we're doing our part. I, in good conscience, would not open up the restaurant if I didn't feel that it was not safe to. So we take precautions, 6 feet distance, masks are required, high traffic areas, those are clean and sanitized. So we're doing our part and keeping, you know, our customers coming in, keeping them safe, keeping our staff safe.
Okay. And Gwen, tell us a little bit about the genesis for this program. How did it all start? Who had the idea? Tell us about why, how the government came up with the idea.
Yeah, actually, and you know, before I get into that, I just wanted to mention and piggyback off of Sarah, the restaurants are just the surface, because underneath the restaurants are the local farmers, the local fishermen, the local ranchers, and the supply chain there that are really also impacted. So, you know, this is killing a dozen birds with one stone. So that's, you know, that's a good way to do it. So actually, this was the brainchild of Kurt Osaki, Osaki Creative, and he is a member of the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii. And he took this idea from a small little town in London, called Brixton. And this was in 2008, with the meltdown, the financial meltdown in 2008. This town decided that it wanted to create its own currency to keep the money within its town, so that the money keeps flowing over and over again. And so they created its own currency. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that here in Hawaii. However, he took that idea and then pitched it, saying, hey, what if we did something like this, where the restaurant card, a prepaid card, could be used to benefit, you know, not just one business, but many businesses down the chain, and feed people while they're at it.
Okay. And so as I understand it, and as you mentioned, this is primarily right now for those who are unemployed, correct? What other impact will it have? For example, will it, if for those who might be on food stamps or SNAP card rather, is there any impact?
Yeah, actually, if you asked me, I would have loved to issue a card to everyone, but it had to be CARES Act fund eligible. So they had to have been negatively impacted by the pandemic. It couldn't just be because they're on, you know, food stamps, or because they're seniors on fixed income, because I really, you know, would have loved to help them. First responders would love to reward them with this, but we couldn't do it. They had to be CARES fund eligible, and they had to be negatively impacted by COVID. And that's why we chose the displaced workers who lost their jobs due to COVID.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Okay, so the cards will be loaded with $500 that they can use at local restaurants.
Yes, local restaurants, fast food, caterers, and bakeries.
Okay, and so how did you manage to, I guess you used a database from the PUA program to reach all these folks, and they didn't necessarily have to apply? Were they automatically qualified?
Yes, so there are, so this first tranche is for the regular unemployment compensation insurance claimants. So that's about 116,000 and change of them. We are working on getting the PUA claimant database. That's 30 some odd thousand of them. So it's going to be almost 150,000 altogether who receive a card. We needed to work with a database, because if we had to have 150,000 people apply for this program, we would still be in the application process. So, you know, and then it's going to be chaos, right? And we didn't want our displaced workers to go through yet another, application process, because, they were already struggling already trying to get through our UI system just because of the volume. So just to give you some idea of how quickly we put this program together, our first meeting was September 8th. September 8th was the first meeting. We pulled the data on October 1st and sent it up to Money Network, the card issuer. The reason we chose Money Network and MetaBank was because they are the ones who did the stimulus payments for unbanked individuals who were getting stimulus checks. If you recall, there were some stimulus checks right in March. There are about 3 million people who did not have any bank account. And so they couldn't get a direct deposit, nor could they get a check. So the way the government got them the money was through prepaid cards using Money Network and MetaBank. And so because we knew they were more than able and capable of doing CARES funding programs quickly and in scale, we're working with them. We uploaded the data October 2nd. The cards were in production and mailed October 12th, which happened to be a federal holiday, but they dropped it in the mail on the 12th, and people started getting it on the 15th.
Wow, talk about a rapid response. Great job. Sarah, can I ask you, what have you let your members' restaurants know about how what they need to do to accept the cards?
Pretty simple. So as Gwen had mentioned, it's fast food, restaurant establishments, fast foods, bakeries. So there's a certain code. It doesn't work at a grocery store. So there's certain codes that you qualify. So those are the restaurants, fast foods, bakeries. Just as if you were accepting a credit card purchase. So just scan it, has their name on there. There's a couple of things though. So it's for food purchases. It does not count towards alcohol. It does not count towards gift cards. And so on our side, it's an honor system. We need to make sure as restaurant owners and as we're receiving these cards that, and the customer should know too. If it's a purchase for those things, just have it separate. Other than that, pretty simple. Just make sure that you inform your staff about it and they get the word out. And so I've been promoting it on Instagram, social media. On our side, we have promotions. Spend $30 and get a free garlic cheesy bread or a deep dish cookie. There's FET that you get 20% off if you use a card. I think it was $6.05 free nachos when you use a card. So just getting the word out about it, but very simple, very easy.
Yeah, and so your membership, I think, as you noted, is kind of reacting to and saying, hey, okay, how do I market to these folks, and what can I offer them to make them come over to my place? Yeah.
Yes, and then there's a lot of questions around there. There's Hawaii, it's a Hawaii, I think, card. There's a FAQ. Any kind of questions, you can refer to that website. How do you qualify? What can you purchase? So a wealth of information on the Hawaii restaurant card FAQ.
Yeah, it's kind of a treat too. I mean, because you guys can do dine-in, you can actually have some time, some extra money for your family to be able to take them out for a family dinner. Yeah.
Yes, I think that it was great. Just and having the families come in and enjoy a meal together on the weekends, weekdays. So it's nice to see, getting back to some sort of normalcy, and to see our customers and to see the smiling faces, to see the kids. They've been cooped up and just to be able to see them, it's been great.
All right. And Gwen, is there any thought at this point? I know that the state government has been using CARES Act to fund this, but has there been any thought to maybe expanding it to say those families who may be still employed but on the lower end of the income totem pole, so that they can avail of some additional money for food for the families? Like we were talking with Sarah, that just to take the kids out to eat and have a family dinner at a restaurant.
Yeah, so it would be dependent on the source of funds. And so, the CARES funds in Hawaii, I think Governor pretty much has it's fully subscribed. However, if Congress does come out with a second tranche of that, and depending on what the requirements are, we can take a look at that. If they are more flexible with the requirements, then certainly we can take a look at being more flexible with our requirements.
Yeah. What are some of the questions that you've gotten from the applicants or the participants, rather?
From the displaced workers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that they're asking us right now is, am I eligible? Am I going to get a card? And so what we did was we worked with our contractor and they set up an Am I Eligible portal, which people can go in and put in a couple of pieces of information and see if they're going to get a card. And we did that because we knew there's a lot of volume and we knew people were curious. As of this morning, there was something like 30,000 inquiries to that portal already. So, I think that made it so helpful for alleviating them from having to call us directly through a call center on that. Other questions are primarily from restaurants, and Sarah did a great job in covering it. We want to make sure that alcohol is not included. We also, I'm so amazed at the creative promotions that the restaurants are doing. One of the things, though, we're telling the restaurants our cash back is not allowed. We want to keep the funds in the restaurant industry to get the impacts that we're hoping for. With the economic impacts of investing in a restaurant industry is more than 2 to 1. So it's huge for the state, for the employees. Yeah.
Sure. And Sarah, can you talk a little bit about the importance of that money being spent locally, because that circulates, right? There's 2-3 times, that multiplier effect. Yeah. Exactly.
And that dollar that is spent at the restaurant is going back to employ the employees. And then for us, we have to, our suppliers, the farmers, we source our produce locally. And so just giving it back, and I think it's ×2 or 1 point, if you round up, it would be that going back to the economy. And that's exactly what we need. And so when that came out, I was like, oh my gosh, like that, it's brilliant, actually. So couldn't come at a better time. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Gwen, I just wanted to find out from you if you have any advice. As I mentioned earlier, I think the governor, the administration here is considering a similar program, if not the same. Why recreate the wheel, right, if it's working for you guys? So what would your advice be? What are some of the main points you would give to them if we roll out a similar card program?
Yes, I think it needs to be a public-private partnership, and we've gotten great partners with the Hawaii Restaurant Association, with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Hawaii Agricultural Foundation, and also with our contractors, Money Network and MetaBank. So it cannot be, it takes a village, right? So we were able to stand it up so quickly because of our partners, and it's thanks to them and our policymakers who supported it, as well as our governor.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Did you have a specific task force or coordinating? I know that you are the program coordinator, but did you draw on, as you said, a private membership task force as well?
Yes. So we had at the beginning, we were having meetings like twice a week. Now it's less than that because it's been launched. We have a meeting on Friday, but we have quite a large meeting of public workers as well as private industry and all of our partners. And restaurants were also part of that because we wanted to make sure that we got their feedback to make sure that we were doing what was right for them.
Right. And you had no incidents of fraud because it's sort of like an automatic qualification, right? Because I know for our unemployment program, we've never had one. The Department of Labor here actually started up Guam's very first unemployment program because of the need for through the PUA. But this is a no need to apply kind of program that you guys start up. So the recommendation would be also to use whatever they've done already with PUA so that they don't have to redo that whole process, because and I recall it did take quite some time for everyone to fill in an application and then be vetted and all that stuff, correct?
Right. And that was part of why we were able to do it so quickly, because our Department of Labor already vetted these people and they are eligible based on our criteria. You know, I do know that there were people who had claims and they weren't settled in September. September is when we pulled the data, but they might have been settled in October. Unfortunately, we're not able to issue them a card. You know, they have to have been settled and paid and deemed eligible in September in order to get a card.
Yeah. And Sarah, do you have any recommendations or insights for our struggling restaurant industry in terms of the experiences that you've gone through in Hawaii?
I would say as a restaurant owner, it is tough. We're not going to sugarcoat it. It is tough. But, you know, for me, I'm always looking at the glass is half full. I'm looking through Instagram, social media, anything. Each week I'm looking, what can we do? And as long as I'm doing my best, we're doing promos. We're, you know, shaking, you know, all our customers that are coming in. I'm thanking everyone. I mean, you know, thank you so much. I know you have places that you can go, but for you to choose to come to us, for our staff, and our employees, building their morale and getting them excited. And so I would say don't give up. It is challenging times, and rely on your other, you know, as far as with restaurant owners. And this too shall pass. It's challenging. It will pass.
Yeah, it has to. It absolutely has to.
It has to.
I know that Hawaii had Governor Ige had just recently announced the reopening of the tourism industry. How has that gone so far for the restaurant and the hotels?
Good. I make sure that I keep myself physically fit and healthy during this time. So I normally do a run around Diamond Head and Waikiki, and it was nice. You know, we saw the tourists coming back, and so, you know, as far as with the tourists, there's hotels, and those hotels employ the people here. It's all a good thing. Everybody just needs to do their part, wear a mask, social distance, those things. And so it's been good. It's been, you know, this past week for us, for the business, it was very encouraging. We had a good week.
And that's good to know. And are you optimistic that if the tourism industry, and obviously it's not going to come back, like you're not going to get your record numbers that you had right before the pandemic, but there'll probably be a gradual buildup. But are you optimistic then that if that gradual buildup happens, that the restaurant industry and the hotel industry will sort of follow?
I think so. It is, you know, as far as with what I've seen with this past few days of it opening and seeing the hotels and the restaurants around the Waikiki area, and that's like the Times Square of New York, and so it wasn't hustling, bustling like before, but it is nice to see the folks there, and so I am optimistic. Yeah.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Yeah. And how about you, Gwen? What's your thoughts? How's it been for the government side in terms of the reopening of the tourism industry to see visitors start trickling back in?
Yeah, 7,000, 8,000 visitors a day, which is much short of what the normal is, but it's a start, and I think so far so good. I know that there were some concern from travelers. It's really, really good to see travel bloggers who actually say it was more stressful getting ready to come than once they landed. It was nice and smooth as long as they did what they were supposed to do. So it's encouraging, and we hope that it continues to work out well.
Yeah, I did an interview last week with the head of the Hawaii Tourism authority. And one of the questions I asked him, and he was very frank about it, was, we have this sort of spectrum in which, people are fearful still, and they don't necessarily want to see the visitors come back just yet. And then there's the business side that, they're fearful for their continued livelihood. And so how do you balance that? And how in your personal opinion, has it been for you in terms of making that balance between reopening and closing it up tight?
For me, it's been, again, it's hard because everyone has their own personal circumstance. For example, I have not seen my mother-in-law, or I've seen her through a window since April. So we have not visited. We drop off groceries for her, pick up food for her. But she's been holed up by herself just because she's a high risk. And so it's been hard on her, and then there's others who, my son, he's 19, and they think they're invincible, and they're anxious to go out. He's actually in Arizona, and we just sent him back to college there. So it takes a balance, and we just, as Sarah said, everyone just needs to do their part, wear their mask, social distance, do what they need to do. So we'll get through this.
Yeah. And Sarah, let me end with you. Just to tell me from your perspective as a business owner, how do you see the balance being struck?
I think that, with what Gwen had mentioned, like everybody does their part, the social distancing, and wearing a mask. But we want to get back to some sort of normalcy. Like I miss going out to eat. And so for us to be able to dine at our favorite restaurant, it was nice to enjoy a meal. And so, if everybody does their part with the tourists here, I don't have a problem with it. I welcome it. But for us to be responsible about it, that's why there's requirements as far as with the capacity that's allowed within a restaurant. So I think it's a good thing. And as far as with pre-existing diseases and the customers and people like that, then then they'll stay at home and to make sure that they're protected. So I think it's a good thing. Everybody needs to do their part.
All right, thank you very much. Sarah Nguyen, she is the owner of Pizza Press and the director of the Hawaii Restaurant Association. And Gwen Yamamoto Lau is the program administrator of the Hawaii Restaurant Card, which just launched $500 from the Federal CARES Act fund, and must be spent in local restaurants and eateries. And so good luck on the program. Sounds great. And possibly Guam will implement something similar to that. Thanks, and aloha, ladies. Appreciate you joining us.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And that's In Full Zoom for this week. I'm Nestor Licanto. We'll see you again next week. Stay safe, everyone.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.